All right. Hello, this is Allie, the Perception Trainers, author of the Perception Diet. And today I have a special guest with me today, Derek from Life Inside a Box. So if you don't already follow his channel, definitely go check out Life Inside a Box. He's doing some really, really cool, amazing stuff, building like a sustainable house and running his own business and doing a lot of really awesome, inspiring things. And the reason that I wanted to have Derek on today is because he and I have a very similar kind of mindset and journey that we've taken going from kind of where we were born and where we started to this dream life that we're living. And so our dream lives are definitely different from each other, but the process that we use to kind of get here and create our lives has been very, very similar. And so I wanted to bring him on so that he could share his story with all of you and kind of the amazing journey that he's been on, as well as give very practical tools and information about like, this is how we create a dream life. And we're going to cover some of the roadblocks that people can run into that I feel like are very rarely talked about. Lots of people talk about their shitty beginning and their triumphant end, but no one talks about the middle bit. And I think that really trips people up because they don't realize that there's this whole middle section that happens and all the stuff that goes on there that generally causes a lot of people to give up. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So welcome, Derek.
How's it going, guys?
So yeah, thank you for being here. So give us a little Cole's notes on the life of Derek and how you went from being born in London, Ontario to living in Tucson, married, tiny house, like own business, all this amazing stuff.
So yeah, I was born in London, Ontario. That's in Canada. So there's two Londons. Everybody always thinks that I'm from the UK or something like that.
Yeah.
I had a pretty standard upbringing and typical middle class family in Canada. So I didn't have any, any advances in life, I guess you could say.
Right.
Pretty standard upbringing. Going through public school, going through high school and university, I was always like the smart kid, especially in public school and high school. So I always exceeded, or I always did very well academically. And so I think I just, from a young age, I've always just had a pretty good belief about myself that like I'm a smart guy and that I can do things. And so that's something that I've always really thought. So when I've undertaken a lot of projects in my life, I basically, and this is a really good mindset that I use all the time, is if I can see that somebody else that can do something, I take a look at that and I'm like, well, that person, they're an intelligent person. Maybe they have some experience with, whatever they're doing. Maybe they're building a tiny house or whatever. And I think to myself, if they can do it, then I can do it as well.
Right.
So I don't differentiate. Now, that being said, there might be a lot of research or technical know-how that I have to learn in order to get myself to a place where I can also, do what they're doing.
Yeah.
So especially like with this tiny house, it was like a lot of research, a lot of YouTube, and to figure out how to do this. So from a young age, I've always had that belief in myself. And I went to university for 2 years. And I was in mechanical engineering, which is it's a pretty good program. It's tough to get into. You have to have at least like a pretty well an A average. And so I did university for 2 years, and by the end, and I dropped out after my second year. And the reason why is because I love to do stuff in my mind. Like I love to really think and visualize and create things in my mind, but I also like the practicality. So I also like to actually physically do stuff with my hands. And just being in school for such a long time, from basically the age of maybe like 3 or 4 or 4 or 5 is like when you first go in kindergarten, all the way up to I would have been 19 years old. So spending all that time just like always just focused on, doing math and physics and all this stuff in my head. Like I was really itching to actually do stuff with like more physicality, I guess you could say.
Right.
So I eventually just got to a point where I got so tired of it, of going to school and learning and stuff, that I didn't even go to my final calculus exam of my second year in university, like at the very end. So I ended up failing that class, of course, and then I would have had to repeat that course in order to pass my second year to go to my third year. So I never actually ended up going back or anything like that. And I actually spent a couple of years, basically probably at least a year or so, very, very much depressed after I dropped out. And so I sat at home in my parents' basement, watching YouTube, just watching whatever. It was pretty sad, right? But there's still, like, I knew that I was a smart person, and I knew that I could go out and achieve stuff in my life, but there wasn't really any motivation. There wasn't really anything to like push me to do that. It was probably shortly after I got a job through my neighbor, working as an apprentice to be an electrician. So that was actually a really good transition for me, because I really enjoy doing physical work like that. And with being an electrician, there's also a lot of thought involved. So it's not like you just go, and it's not like the same repetitive thing over and over and over again. A lot of it's repetitive, but there's a lot of problem solving that you have to do. And basically, during the actual job itself, because you run into all types of problems. I worked as an electrician for over 4 years. And it got to the point, it was towards the end of, I guess, my career as an electrician, is when I first became vegan, and I really started learning more about the environment. And there was this, like, I guess the more and more that I kind of learned about it, I'm like, this career is not going to really pan out for me over the long term. Like, I just imagine myself, I'm like 20 years from now, am I going to be happy being an electrician? Or is there much more that I can accomplish in my life? And I was just like, yeah, like totally. I'm like, I'm learning about like all this amazing stuff with like veganism and the environmental footprint. And, I was learning about alternative building styles even back then, like earthships and stuff like that. So immediately I was just like, man, this is way more interesting than obviously what I'm doing. So at that time, I just knew that I kind of like needed a change. I needed to like start fresh somewhere. So I told my boss, and he was totally cool with this. I'm just like, I'm done. Like, I'm done working for you in 4 weeks, and I'm gonna move out west to British Columbia in Canada. And so I basically packed up everything that I could fit into my car and traveled to the west coast of Canada. I didn't have a job. I didn't honestly have that much money to even get me going. But this was the first of many, I would call them like leaps of faith. So a metaphor that I always use is, say there's something that is kind of scary for you to do. And so imagine you're walking up to the edge of the cliff, and this is like the scary thing that you're going to do. And you look down over and you don't see anything down there, just because you just can't see everything at the bottom of the cliff. But instead of thinking to myself, well, I'm not going to jump off the cliff because I don't know exactly what's going to happen, I'm going to jump off the cliff and trust that there's a net down there to catch me.
Yes.
So basically what had happened when I moved to British Columbia within a few weeks was that I found a house sit for 6 months where I didn't have to pay any rent or anything. Like, I didn't have to pay any bills. I could just live at these people's houses, or at this couple's house, look after their animals, and like that was it. And so then I found that it was very weird how I found that, and it was just so quick. And so I was like, all right, this is cool. So I started doing that, and then I started getting other ideas, and I'm like, wouldn't it be really cool to, like, I had always actually wanted to go to Thailand, specifically Canterbury, because I've been told that it was such a good place for fruit. So I was like, let's make this a little bit more interesting. I'm going to ride my bike from the top of Vietnam and then ride my bike all the way down through Vietnam, through Cambodia, and into Thailand. So I basically started fundraising. And at the same time, I started my original YouTube channel.
Right.
And so basically I started, putting out videos and fundraising money to go on this trip to spread awareness around veganism and sustainable travel. I mean, like at that point, didn't have very many subscribers or anything, but it was something that I just really wanted to do. Like the same thing as moving to the West Coast of Canada. It's something that I really wanted to do. And so I ended up scrounging up enough money to buy a flight, buy a bike, and to travel to Vietnam. And I was very naive because I really honestly didn't know what the hell I was doing. I never really researched anything about bike touring, or I really just very going into it, just having no idea what I'm doing. Anyways, I ended up making it to the bottom of Vietnam, which is Ho Chi Minh City, which is the main city there. And basically, just before I reached Ho Chi Minh City, I had my laptop, I had my camera, and I had some cash stolen because I was basically very naive, and I was sleeping. Like, I would find a place to camp, out, just anywhere, just in random spots. And I was very successful on the northern parts of Vietnam, and almost got all the way to Ho Chi Minh City. Yeah. And so I had all this stuff stolen from me, and I was beyond pissed off, right? And I'm like, because I had this awesome trip in mind, right? Like, it's going to be awesome. I'm, filming everything, putting it up on YouTube. I was going to make it all the way to Chanterbury, and that would be my first major roadblock. So I got to Ho Chi Minh City. I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I had an idea that I wanted to go to Australia, but I didn't even have the means to get there. And it's where am I going to live when I get there? I'm going to need a job to work to make money. So I really had no idea what I wanted to do, where I should go. So I was very confused for a few weeks, just hanging out in Ho Chi Minh City. And so basically what I did was I contacted this lady, I would call her an intuitive counselor. So she connects with your spirit guides, and they will deliver a message to you from them. And so basically their message to me was to keep riding my bike. Right. Now, it was funny, when I talked to my intuitive counselor, I basically said, should I stay in Ho Chi Minh City, or should I travel to Australia? So continue riding my bike, it wasn't an option in my mind, but that's what my intuitive counselor from my spirit guides said to do. And I just kind of brushed it off. I'm like, that's stupid. That just doesn't make any sense. I was running desperately low on money. I probably only had about $500 or $600 US at that point, which when you factor in, it's I got to travel, ride my bike all this way, and I have to buy a plane ticket eventually to get somewhere. It's not a lot of money, right? So I was just I just brushed it off, and just weird synchronicity. Basically what happened was another cycle tourist, it was actually a guy from China. He didn't speak any English at all, but he actually stayed at the same hotel that I was staying at in Ho Chi Minh City. And I was just and he basically showed me how many kilometers he had ridden, and basically kind of showed me on a map where he had ridden through China and consequently through Vietnam. And I was just amazed. I was just wow, I thought riding just from basically the top of Vietnam to the bottom, I thought that was pretty good, which it still is. It's not a walk in the park. No. But I was just so amazed and so inspired by this guy. And the following day he left, and I think it was probably about 2 or 3 days after that, I just said, you know what, screw it. I'm just going to keep riding my bike. I wanted to go to Chanterbury. And so that's what I kept doing. And it was kind of funny. During that stretch while I was riding from Ho Chi Minh City all the way into Thailand, is a guy I was still posting YouTube videos, and somehow this one guy found me, and he's just basically oh, I heard you mention in one of your videos that you wanted to go to Australia. And he's like, well, I live in Brisbane, Australia. He's like, if you want, you can stay at my place for a bit until you get settled, and I'll get you a job working at the company that I work for. So he worked for a catering company. So I was holy shit. I had no other options at this point. It was probably just pack up, ask my parents for some money to fly back to Canada, and then start fresh there. So that didn't happen. So basically what I did was I took the rest of my money, I actually had to borrow $500 from my brother, but I took the rest of my money, paid for a visa to go to Australia, and bought a plane ticket, got there, got situated, got working, started making money, replenished my funds, replaced my laptop, replaced my camera, all that kind of stuff, and kept going. And so that was just like weird how that all happened, and it turned out amazing, right? Like at the end of the day. But something that we were talking about before is like for somebody who wants to go from New York to LA, it's like they start in New York, they go to Boston, and they're like, well, I'm not in LA, so like they turn around and go back to New York. So to me, it's like it's the same kind of thing. It's like I had all these roadblocks basically stopping me, or like basically trying to point me in another direction. But it's like when I finally just made the choice to follow what I originally intended to do, it's like all the pieces just kind of fell into place at that point.
Right.
So it was really like I was just like amazed at how that worked. And so basically I stayed in, long story short, I stayed in Brisbane for about 4 months, made a whole bunch of money so that I can continue cycle touring. I went to Adelaide. So I cycled from Brisbane to Adelaide, and then from Adelaide, stayed in Adelaide for 3 or 4 months, went up to Cairns in Australia, stayed there for 3 or 4 months, and started, I'm very good at saving money. So I was able to work very little and also still have a good amount of money saved up. From Cairns, I went back to Southeast Asia, started in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and then ended up in Chiang Mai, where you're at right now. Yeah. And ended up in Chiang Mai. And after that, I stayed in Thailand for a few months, really, really enjoyed it. Went back to Canada eventually. And it was probably at least a year or so after I got back into Canada I saw this documentary about tiny homes. Okay. And I was just like, that's really interesting, right? Because one thing that I was craving, because I was traveling so much, is I wanted a place that I could call home. Right. And traveling around, living, renting out rooms and always being in someone else's home. Like, I don't know, I just didn't want it anymore because I've been traveling for a few years there. Yeah. So I just wanted to really kind of set my roots somewhere. So basically saw this documentary and got really inspired, because I thought to myself, you know what, like the people that were building these tiny homes, like they didn't even have really any construction experience. They just basically went and did it. And they, they learned how to do it and all that kind of stuff. And my background as an electrician, I'm like, well, I've got a leg up on these people for one, because I've been around construction sites. I understand how a home goes together probably better than most people. Yeah. And I was just like, I'm like, I could totally do that. And, a lot of people are only spending maybe between $20,000 to $30,000 on their tiny home. And I'm like, well, you know what? If I move back home, which I did, and live with my parents, and I just work at a job, make money, save as much of it as I can, I can just put all that money towards building a tiny house. Yeah. Prior to that, like as I was kind of getting interested in a tiny house, I really started to set like a vision for my life. And it was very clear and it was very defined. And it was like, I want to be living in a tiny house with my dream girl, and be earning at least $5,000 a month income online, from YouTube or whatever, like some type of online income. Yes. And that was something that basically what I had no idea how that was going to come to fruition, but I've been studying a lot of Bob Proctor at that point as well. And I highly recommend checking out his program, You Were Born Rich. You can watch it on YouTube for free. And it's something that people used to pay $400 to $500 for. And you can watch it for free, which is amazing. So I basically studied this stuff. I still listen to it to this day. It's the same program. It's the same 11-hour program. I've probably listened through it, I don't know how many times by now, but I've been constantly just enriching my mind with the same thoughts and the same program. I don't buy any other books on prosperity, because he basically outlines everything in this program. Like, I converted the entire DVD program to an audiobook, and that's how I listened to it on my phone.
Yeah.
So he basically goes over the steps. He's like, you want to write down exactly what you want. Like, you have to be specific. It's not just like, I want to make a lot of money. It's like, that's not specific. It's like, I want to make so much money per month or so much money per year, and this is how I want to do it.
Yeah.
So I just followed, the steps that he laid out, and I've gone through so many notepads of just, writing it out and crafting the type of life that I wanted. Yeah. So writing it out, rewriting it all the time, constantly thinking about it. That's an important thing. And one thing that he really harps in that program is that you're not supposed to know how everything's going to happen. You might have an idea, but you don't know exactly the steps from A to B. You don't know exactly all the steps from New York to Los Angeles, how you're going to get there. Right. But you want to be in Los Angeles. Yeah. And you're in New York, but who knows? Maybe you're going to go all the way to the Pacific Northwest into Portland, and then you're going to go south down into California. Like, who knows? Exactly. So basically, I'm just like, all right, I'm going to try this out. Like, just try out visualizing exactly what I want. So I had that vision, and I kept reading it. I kept visualizing it, thinking about it, putting myself into a relaxed state, visualizing it, thinking about it over and over and over again. Yeah. Shortly after I started doing this, and it really and I mean, I've been kind of loosely doing it for probably at least 1 to 2 years before this, but I'm like, this is what I really want. And the tiny house was really it was a big part of it, because how I explained earlier, I wanted a place that I could call home, and I wanted to be there with my, amazing girlfriend or wife, and be having an online income. Yeah. And so shortly after, probably within a number of weeks, I would say, is that just out of the blue, I didn't have any kind of sexual interest in her at all, but I messaged this one girl on YouTube, and her name's Highcarb Hannah, because she was going through some dramas with some people also on YouTube. So I just reached out to her to, I don't know, console her, I guess, in a way, or I don't know. I just reached out to her, and we chatted once on Skype. Nothing really happened. I actually had a girlfriend at that point, but I think it was probably, I don't know how long after when I broke up with her, just out of the blue, I just thought maybe I'll message Hannah and just see if she wants to chat or whatever. Yeah. And it was very, very quickly after that we really kind of had this awesome connection together. And it was something that I just hadn't really experienced with a girl before. I don't know, it's just kind of how she, her type of humor, and just how we're able to speak for hours and hours on end on Skype. And I just really started to fall for this girl. Right. And, I told her about, I started telling her about tiny houses and stuff like that. And at first she thought it was stupid. She thought, this is really dumb. Why would you want to live in it? Why would you want to live in a house that's only 20 or 24 foot long? It's like a trailer basically, or an RV. Yeah. So she didn't really have any inkling to want to do something like that. But she actually, I think she ended up watching. I can't remember exactly how she got turned around. It wasn't me that turned her around. I think it might have been a coworker or something. Yeah. And she started doing more research into it, and then she kind of got interested in it. And all the while, we're talking back and forth, and things are progressing. And eventually, when we first started talking, actually, I told her, I'm like, you should really write an ebook, because she was posting YouTube videos as well, and she had already lost a good amount of weight, I think maybe maybe about 30 pounds at that point, by eating a whole foods plant-based diet. And I'm like, well, you should really write an ebook, with recipes, and, start taking photos of whatever. And so she actually did that. And it was March of I think March of 2015 is when I went and visited her for the first time. And she had basically finished her book by then.
Uh-huh.
and she made it in this program called Blurb. And
Okay.
I'd already kind of put together ebooks myself in the past, so I was kind of a little bit fluent in Adobe InDesign, so I was able to do that. And I was
Okay.
basically like, I'm like, this Blurb program, whatever you created your ebook in, is like shit. I'm like,
Okay.
let me copy it over to Adobe InDesign. I'll create it, a whole design for you. I'll set up the checkout process, like in a web page for it, like web page, sales page.
Right.
And she was like, all right. Like, so that was basically, I guess, kind of the start of our business. And I I came up with the name Raw to Whenever, which there's a very popular diet out there that's called Raw till 4. And so it was kind of a play on Raw till 4 and kind of it was kind of like a jab, I guess you could say, because we really both didn't like the people that ran Raw till 4. Yeah. So basically right from then on, I think I was amazed when she released her book that there's a lot of potential there for a business. Yeah. And I was just like, like that's amazing, right? Like when she released it, I forget exactly how much she made the first day, but I was just like, whoa, like that's a lot of money to make in one day. And I'm coming from a very impoverished mindset where like most years, because I was doing so much traveling and not really working, I was only earning maybe around $10,000 or $12,000 per year. So really not a whole lot. Yeah. And so like to me, like I was just like, holy moly, like that's so much money, right, to make. Yeah. And long story short, basically we started working on other projects and other books together. And I guess there's other parts of the story. Let me just quickly remember here. So basically, over time, we really came together, and we knew that we wanted to be together. So we went through the process of becoming engaged and getting the fiancé visa and stuff, so that I could move to the United States. She had a house and she had dogs and stuff, so her moving to Canada wasn't really practical. So over time, basically, we visited each other a couple more times and stuff, and everything was like totally awesome. And I eventually moved to the United States, and basically that's when things really started to go. So it was basically, I think I moved there September of 2015. And we got married on November 11th of 2015. And from then on, we moved down to Tucson because we wanted to get away from the winter in Minnesota, just because we're both, well, she's from Minnesota, I'm from Canada, so we both know, brutal winters quite well. So we wanted to get out of there, and we eventually moved down to Arizona, down to Tucson. That was kind of like a layover. We were eventually going to move to California, and we actually we didn't want to buy either a tiny house, but I wasn't at that point. It wasn't like a big thing that I was thinking about. But I put in so much time thinking about the tiny house and all that kind of stuff, back previously. So one of our subscribers sent us a link to a tiny house it was actually located in San Diego. And that's the place that we actually wanted to move after we lived in Tucson. So we're like, okay, that's really cool. So we actually drove to San Diego to check out this tiny house, and we stayed in it for a night. And I was just looking around, and coming from construction, I was just like, we were very set on buying it. Like we had the cash in hand to buy it. And I was just like, like looking around at the tiny house, I was just like, man, there's so many things that I would change in this house. Like I would just basically rip it apart and start redoing things just because I didn't like it. And so we stayed in it. We were very interested. I don't know, but there was just this feeling inside of me. I'm like, I could totally do a better job than this. Right? Yeah. Like I'm just like, I can build something way nicer. So on our drive back from San Diego going to Tucson, I said to her, Hannah, I'm just like, you know what? Like, I'll build us a tiny house. And she's like, you do that? And I'm like, yeah. And it's kind of funny. That was one of the things that we talked about a lot when we first started talking is that is that I would build. She's like, because Hannah was interested in getting a tiny house.
Okay.
And she's like, exactly how did it go? It went along the lines of, I basically said to her, I'm like, I'm not going to build, like, because Hannah wanted me to build her a tiny house. And I'm like, I'm not going to build you a tiny house. I'll build us a tiny house.
Yeah.
And so she was just like, whoa. So that's going back before we were married and stuff, and we're still kind of in the dating phase. And
Yes.
so then that whole idea of me building our tiny house came back to fruition. And so basically we're just like, all right, well, how are we going to do this? And I'm like, well, first thing that we need to find is a trailer to build it on. And second thing is we need to find a place to build it because we're just living in an apartment building. We didn't really have space to build a tiny house. Yeah. So there's one of our subscribers. I knew that she was from Tucson because she had mentioned it, and she would always leave comments on her videos and stuff. And so I asked her, I'm like, do you know any place that I can build this, right? Like a friend's backyard or anything? And she's just like, well, you can build it in my backyard. And I'm like, wow. Is a tiny house going to fit back there? And she's like, there's an alleyway that went behind her house, and there was a gate. There's a gate there. So you could actually get a trailer backed into there. Yeah. And I was just like, so I went over there and I checked it out, took some measurements just to see like if the 24-foot long trailer would fit back there and if it would fit through the gate, and everything looked good. So basically over the next 6 months, from March of 2016 to about till about November, just this November past, basically spent a lot of time building the tiny house that we're living in right now. Yeah. And since then, like, it's just been crazy. We've created this incredible community together of people who are really focused on eating a whole foods plant-based diet, not only for health, but for ethical reasons, and primarily for weight loss, but we really harp on the health benefits as well, because it is a very healthy diet to eat. And we've created this amazing community on Facebook, and it's just been, it's been amazing. It's been such a wild roller coaster, I guess you could say, in a way. And the thing is, when I was first visualizing about building a tiny house and stuff, I thought that it was going to be in Canada, because it was out of the scope of my reality that I would be moving to the United States. Because I know that you have to, there's only a few ways that you can live permanently in the United States when you're a foreigner. It's usually business visa, education visa, and like a fiance or marriage visa. Like those are your three main options. So when I was living in London, back at my parents' place and working at a job and really visualizing this tiny house, I thought that it was going to be in Canada. I thought that I was going to build it in London and then move it across the west coast of Canada. That's what I thought. But the universe typically has other plans for you. Yeah. So I remember even mentioning this, I think when we first got the trailer parked in our friend's backyard, and started work on the tiny house, as I told people, I'm like I had no idea that I would be in Tucson, Arizona, building a tiny house and married to high carb Hannah. Yeah. It's like, how did this even happen? Yeah. Like, it's just amazing, because you just don't necessarily, you don't know exactly how you're going to get to where you want to go. And I think that's one of the really important things that, like living your dream and, creating a vision for yourself is to not think exactly about how it's going to happen, because you don't know how it's going to happen, and you're not supposed to know how it's going to happen. Right. And I kind of like living like that, just not knowing exactly how things are going to happen, because it makes things a lot more exciting. It's like knowing how the movie's going to end when in the first 5 minutes of the movie. It's like,
Yeah.
well, why would you even, watch the rest of it when you know the ending already?
Right.
So it makes it a lot more exciting to basically
Yeah.
not know exactly how things are going to happen.
Yeah.
But I know you wanted to talk a lot about the process, and the process is really to obviously create the vision that you want, and to write it out in detail and emotion, and to focus on that, and to feel it, and to really start, and basically through repeating it to yourself over and over and over again, thinking about it, visualizing, feeling the emotions, doing that consistently, you really start to shift the needle towards it happening. So it starts off at like, there's no way that this is going to happen. I don't know how this is going to happen. And you keep doing it. And it's just like, you keep moving that needle over and over and over and over and over until you have it.
Yes.
But it always starts with the vision, thinking about it, and constantly enriching your mind with prosperous thoughts.
Yeah.
Constantly listening to audiobooks that are maybe talking about abundance. Like I talked about the You Were Born Rich program, how I have it as an audiobook and I keep listening to it. Yes. Years later, I'm still listening to the same program. It's not because I'm stupid. That's why I'm still listening to it.
Yeah.
It's because I'm listening for any new little tips or something new, another like click that I might get while listening to it. Yeah. And it's just constant, something that Bob always talks about is constant spaced repetition of those thoughts. So instead of thinking, well, I'm just going to think about being a millionaire just for today. And it's like, that's not going to do anything. Like, you're not going to get anywhere. But say you took 10 minutes every single day for a year to think about what you want, that visualization or that vision that you have, that dream that you have. Those 10 minutes every single day are much more powerful than thinking 24 hours in one day about that thing that you want. Yeah. And then that's it. You just kind of don't think about it. So it's like having that constant spaced repetition of the dream and the vision that you want, like constantly thinking about it, visualize it. Who doesn't love to daydream and visualize? Yeah. Like it's such a fun process, and that's how the process should be. Yes. Like it should, when you think about these things, you want to feel good. If you feel defeated or you feel hopeless, then that's not what you want to be feeling. So when you visualize that thing that you want, you should feel good. But typically what happens, and this is where a lot of people get stuck, is they'll think about what they want, but then they'll think of all the reasons why they can't have it. Yeah. Or why it's not going to happen. Well, I've got a family. I've got all this debt. I'm not smart enough. I'm not good looking enough, or something like that. We all naturally will come up with these little excuses that we tell ourselves why we can't have why we can't have what we want. Yes. And basically a lot of those negative thoughts about, or I'll just say a lot of those limiting beliefs and limiting thoughts that you have, they will start to diminish over time as you're consistent with listening to good audiobooks or watching DVD programs. So it's like those thoughts that keep popping up, they start to diminish over time. And instead of thinking I can't do that, then it's like, why couldn't I do that? Like that's totally possible. Yes. Exactly. So yeah, I know I just talked for a very long time, but
so awesome.
It's all these different. It's just mainly just like focusing on exactly what you want, and then start acting towards it. And the action, I don't know. Like I just think of the first logical step for anything. So it's like you want to build a tiny house. All right, you need a place to build it, and you need a trailer, and then go from there. Exactly. And so that's another thing that I think a lot of people get kind of stuck up on is they think, well, I'm just going to think prosperous thoughts all the time. Yeah. But they don't do anything about it. And it's like, if you want to be a millionaire or whatever, or you want a different home, or you want to live in a different place or have a better job or start your own business, It's like you want to start thinking those thoughts, but you also want to start taking action towards it. And just take the first logical step. Like whatever you think, you might need to know. Like if you want to start a business, start learning about how to start a business.
Yeah.
Like start buy a book on it or anything. And as you keep visualizing and thinking about what you want, the steps are going to eventually lay themselves out for you. And you don't know exactly what steps they are, but they will come to fruition. Yeah.
So this is the question. So like, if you had known what the whole process was going to look like when you were dropping out of university to get to here, you probably would have been like, holy shit, no, I'm not doing that.
I wouldn't have believed you.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah.
And so this is the thing, right? No. The very first thing we need to understand is that when we have a dream and we expect to know what's going to take us from where we are to where we want to go, it's like if you actually got the whole picture, it would overwhelm you, right? Because we don't know what we don't know. We don't know what's in between where I am and where I'm going, right? We literally think New York and LA are right beside each other. And I'm going to leave New York and then I'm going to be in LA. We are not aware that there's all these states in between. And like you said, you may even take a detour and go somewhere totally different. But so now if we look at your story, and I'm going to just say that like literally your story is exactly the same as my story. I graduated high school 6 months early, went to New Zealand. Then I did my nutrition diploma. Then I did my life coaching thing. Then we dropped out of life and, moved to Vancouver. And then I was like, okay, this is a rat race. Like, it's like reset button every day. I don't want to do this. We're moving to Thailand. We moved to Thailand, but it totally didn't work out. Like, Marcus lost his job. I had my job, but he needed to have a job. So then we moved to Montreal so that he could get experience, so that he could move us to San Francisco. And this whole time, it was like with this idea that we're going to work remotely, right? But it took us like 3 years to make it happen to where we are today. And I had no idea all the steps in between. And at any point along that journey, you could have looked at it and been like, it's not working, right? Like I had exactly what you had. In 2011, I think it was, I stood in a yoga studio and I said, okay, I want to be working online, using the skills that I actually have, because I was like always like a receptionist or, kind of like low paying, but like not really offering anything to the world in my view, jobs. And I didn't like that. I knew that I had skills. I knew that I could help people. I wanted to be doing that. I wanted to be free to travel, but I didn't want to be, working a job so that I could go travel, spend all my money, and then have to go back to a shitty job. And I wanted this life. And it literally took us 4 years to get here. And I had no idea what was in between that vision and getting here. So I think the first thing that I kind of want to outline is like this, what Derek has described that he went through, and what I described that I have gone through, which is basically the same story, just different outcomes, right? Again, like all the shit in between, all of these things that we did that were like, holy smokes, like what's happening here? My life has gone completely out of whack. Like, and then all the little miracles that are like, wow, I can't believe that just totally fell into place. It's understanding that it's not magic. It's really not magic. The reason that we had the life that we had, right? And that everyone has the life that they have is because they are agreeing with everything that they believe, everything that they see, like the reality that they're creating. They fully are bought in to that vibration, right? That like all the thoughts that are required, all the actions that are required, all the behaviors that are required in order to maintain that existence. And this is what we don't understand, is that we are all creating our reality by agreeing to our limiting beliefs, agreeing to our, culture, agreeing to that this is what life is. This is what's possible for me, right? And so when Derek says, visualize what you want and feel it as though it's happening, right? So like that's a huge key, is the feel. You can't just think about it. You got to feel what it would feel like to be there, to be doing that, to be having that.
Mm-hmm.
What you're doing is you're literally training yourself to be in a different frequency. You're literally training yourself to be able to exist in a reality that's different than the one that you're in right now. And then when all those limiting beliefs come up, what you need to realize is like this is going to be the thing that happens that most people are like, I spent my 10 minutes visualizing having the money and it all felt really good. And I opened my eyes and I realized I didn't have that. And it felt even worse than it did before. Right? And it's like, yes, that's exactly what's supposed to happen, because that's your consciousness saying, okay, if this is what you want, these are all the things that are making it so that you don't have this. What you think, what you feel, these limiting beliefs, this is what's creating not having that. So when you start that visualization process, you have to know you're going to feel worse for a while, because everything that comes up after you've done your visualization is basically the universe and yourself saying to you, you can have that, absolutely. You know what it feels like. Here's all the things you're going to have to let go of in order to get there. Mm-hmm. And like you said, as you just practice thinking the new thing, thinking the new thing, thinking the new thing, don't look at your reality as being evidence of anything. Look at the reality as being, this is what I've projected. This is what I've projected onto the reality. This is not evidence that says my beliefs are true. This is simply evidence that this is what I believe. And if I want something different, you don't look to reality. You look to how it feels when you think what you're really thinking. And then you contrast that with how terrible it feels to think your shitty thoughts. And then you say, okay, right? It feels shitty for a reason. Anything that feels shitty is out of alignment with the truth of who I am. Yeah. Right? So having that vision is so important, because it's literally helping you to tune yourself to a different frequency. So this is where we say, don't be a troll, live the life of your dreams. So when you watch Derek's videos and you get jealous, or you want to think like, oh, he must have something that I don't have, or he was privileged in a way that I wasn't privileged, or you don't know, like, right, blah, 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 blah. You want to make up all these excuses why he has something that you don't. Check that. Instead of doing that, right, just understand that all that you're doing when you do that is holding yourself back from having what you want. That's literally, you're not going to stop, Derek. Right? Like, this is the thing. Yeah. You could have 100 million souls, and your life is still going to be amazing. Right? But the person who's controlling you is not only, like, continuing to stay in their reality, they're reinforcing it. You're reinforcing it by saying, I can't have what you have because you had something I don't have. Right? A huge part of Derek's story was that he looked at other people and said, that's inspiration. If they can do it, I can do it. And that is absolutely the attitude we have to have. Right?
Yeah.
Look to everyone. I just want to... Yeah, go ahead.
So this is another book that Hannah and I both read a lot. This is called The Power I Want to Burn. And something that she mentions in there a lot, there's just a point that really kind of, I just remembered right now while we're talking about this, is that I get people who started kind of making, I don't know, just kind of like weird comments, almost like jealous comments when I would post photos on Instagram of our ATV. It's like, off-grid living's looking really expensive. And it's like, not, in my mind, I'm like, we only paid $3,900 for that ATV. That's not even that much money. But to them, it might seem astronomical.
Yes.
And the thing that Rhonda really harps on is like, if you see something that you want and say somebody else has it, instead of putting that down and saying, oh, that person, blah, 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 it's like, you could be like, you could celebrate it.
Yeah.
So celebrate it. Be like, wow, like they did that. Like, that's amazing. As opposed to being like, screw them. They're just like blah, 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 blah. Coming up basically just self-projecting their own limiting beliefs onto them. And so that's another great book to read as well. I have the audiobook version as well. And it's just, it just really, it comes down to a few of those key things. And it's just, it's crazy. I think differently. I don't know, maybe if you've experienced this as well, is that I definitely have different thoughts, but the difference in feeling, I guess you could say, on a day-to-day basis, it's not like now I feel like my life is like rainbows and like roses or something. Like, it's just like, oh my God, this is like I'm still like the same person. I just think a little bit differently than I used to. And so instead of thinking like, well, I couldn't afford that. It's like, I just think about how can I generate money to afford that?
Yes, exactly. Like, and this is the thing,
right? Do I just need to comment?
Yeah, it's really a can-do attitude. It's really this is an infinite possibility place. That's really a huge key to this, is that the limits that you put on yourself are the only limits that actually exist. The limits you put on yourself are the only limits that actually exist. But understand that, like, really the hugest key, I think the two biggest keys are, number one, when you start to visualize and when you start to get these feelings and all this stuff, you are going to be called to action. Because again, part of what's creating the reality that you live in now is the actions that you take, right? And it's repetitive and it's comfortable and it's familiar and you've done it and you know how to do that, right? This new frequency, this new life requires new action, different action, right? And again, the universe isn't going to tell you, here's what it's going to look like over here. Because again, that would be completely overwhelming. It's only going to give you the very next step. Just, where am I going to put the trailer? Right?
Yeah, where am I going to put the trailer? Exactly. Yeah.
You didn't need to know exactly where every single nail and how you were going to get every, right? There are so many details that went into even just one aspect of your story, building the house, right? So many details. But so again, if the universe had just downloaded all of that to you in one foul swoop, overwhelming, right?
For sure.
Where am I going to put the trailer? That's doable, right?
Yeah.
The second thing, understand that you don't know what you don't know. You think you know the information that you need in order to create what you're going to create, but you have no idea, right? Literally, what it took for me to become the person that could sustain this life that we're living now was 6 years. I thought I would get an online job and then we'd be here and everything would be great. Not even close. And every single thing that was in between, living in Vancouver and working at the yoga studio part-time, to running my own business, living in Thailand, all this crazy stuff, right? Every single thing contributed to my knowledge, contributed to my understanding, contributed to my raising of my vibration, contributed to my learning, contributed to what I have to contribute. And that whole process made me who I am so that I could do this. And so, like Derek, like when you dropped out of university for the first time, you could not have stepped into this life as that person without your without like getting your shit robbed, without, having no money, getting money, having no money, getting money. Like, you learned so much. Being an electrician, like, all of these things seemed random at the time. And then all of it came together to serve this goal. Like, everything that you learned on that path has come into fruition. You needed all that information. And so, like, that's the other thing. Stop looking at it like things went wrong. Assume that I have this vision. So if this thing is coming up now, it's not California and therefore it's wrong. It's like, oh, I didn't realize Boston was the next step. Oh, I didn't realize I was going to Portland, right? But it is. So stop assuming your life is going wrong. If you have a vision and you can feel it, And then the next thing that calls to you is like something that seems totally random to you, or life throws you a curveball and moves you to Montreal in the middle of winter, like it did to us, right? You say, okay, what am I learning here? And then I think the third thing that I want to mention from your story that I think is super, super important, immerse yourself in it. I did the exact same thing. You obsessively studied the Bob Proctor material. You have no idea how many hours I've spent in meditation and listening to people talk, like flooding my consciousness with a different way of thinking. Because like I said, most people are living, like in Canada and the United States, in the Western world or whatever, they're living a very similar existence to everyone else. Not because that's what reality is, but because everyone has agreed that that's what reality is. And we're all going to think that way. We're all going to act that way. We're all going to believe that way. And so we all create the same stuff. We're all going to resonate on that same frequency. So if you want something radically different than what everyone else is doing, you can't be sitting there watching normal TV and listening to normal music and thinking the same kind of thoughts that everyone else is thinking. You need to immerse yourself in something different. And I think that immersion is huge. That is key. Don't waste any more of your time. Like, especially if you want something radical. If you only want something a little bit different from the reality that you have, it's not that much of a commitment. But if you want something radically different, you want to be running your own business living in a tiny house. You want to be running your own business living in Thailand. Like, you want something so not the 9-to-5 rat race. You need to immerse yourself in something different and commit to it. Yeah?
Absolutely. Something that I think is, so you can immerse yourself in audiobooks and books and stuff. And I think that's a great way to immerse yourself in a new topic, but also start thinking about the people in your life. Start thinking about where you live, the people that you hang out with.
Yes.
Especially the people that you hang out with, because if back in the day, like I remember I had this one friend he was very wealthy and he never seemed to work. Like he never was working. He had a family and stuff, but he was just like living in Vancouver, doing his thing. And I just thought to myself, I'm like, how does this guy like make money and stuff? Like I just didn't even know. But say if I were to hang around that guy enough and he was like my best friend and we're always chatting, there's a very good chance that I would start to take upon his thoughts and his behaviors just based on like surrounding myself with him. So it's like if there's people in your life that are just drainbows, right? And it just sucks to hang around with them. It's like you don't have to cut them out. You don't have to cut them out completely, but just don't go as often and don't stay as long.
Exactly.
And it was funny when I first started dating Hannah, like she had a totally different mindset around money than I did. Totally different. Like, I was very like I had to learn to be very frugal with my money just to make it last.
Yes.
But she thought very, very differently around money. And I even told her, I'm like, just by me being with you, I'm probably going to start thinking new things about money.
Yes.
And now we totally think, I totally think much differently around money and stuff.
Yes. So. Yeah. I would say I had the same thing with Marcus. I was so poverty mindset, right? And he was so not like that. And at first I was like, holy crap, like you're so irresponsible, like blah, blah, blah. But the thing was, he always had way more than he needed. Like that was the thing. Like he never worried about it. And it seemed to always be in abundance. And like I always worried about it, and it always seemed to be this scary, scroungy thing. And so absolutely who you spend time with, and just like, again, notice how it feels. Like notice how it feels to hang around your friends. Like, does it really feel good? Are you feeling energized and buzzed afterwards? Or are you feeling like that comfortable, numb, familiar thing? Like it might not feel terrible if you're not really used to what an ecstatic experience can be like or what an expanded experience can be like. But if you just kind of feel that numb comfortableness, like you've had a couple of years feeling, right? Question that. Is that really serving where you want to go? And again, if you have a very small vision, something that's not very different from where you are right now, of course, the steps in between are going to be very little. The vibrational shift is not going to be that much. It's not going to be that much work. But if you want something totally different, which I just want to encourage people that like, you can have whatever you want. You can literally have whatever you want. There is nothing special about Derek. There's nothing special about me that made it so that we could have this. We just had a vision, didn't give up, and took different action. We took the risk, right? We realized that like, yeah, okay, if I keep doing what I'm always doing, if I keep thinking what I'm always thinking, I'm gonna keep creating the same thing. So if I want something different, I have to do something different. I have to be something different. And I think the last thing that I would say is really important for getting a vision is like, and I don't know if you're so maybe like onto this or whatever, but you are contributing so much to the world with what you're doing. And that is so huge. Like, I really truly believe that like when your mindset is like, what can I create? What can I give? Not what can I get? How can the universe, fill my needs? The universe bends over backwards to make it happen for you. Like, right? Like my whole mindset was like, I wanted to serve people in a much higher capacity than I was. And so life was like, hell yes, we're going to give you everything you need and more in order to be able to do that. And like I say, I live in this incredible abundance now that I never even dreamed possible, really. And I think a lot of that is just because I was so dedicated to like, this is my service. I'm just not going to worry so much about what I'm going to get from this. And I'm going to focus a lot more on like, what do I have to give? What do I have to give? What do I have to give? And I've never been able to outgive the universe. And I think that that's another thing. Like Derek and Hannah, your lives revolve around offering something of value to the world, right? Your videos are educational.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like probably the biggest thing is that like how we've really kind of structured things in a business sense, I guess you could say. Like, I don't know, that sounds kind of weird, but like we always try to offer everything as much as possible for free.
Yes.
Like we're giving, like, for example, if you go to our website, it's like you can get a 60-page ebook for free. We have hundreds and hundreds of free videos that has pretty well all the information in there that you need to know. We have tons of free recipes on our website. And basically, it's always a very funny. It's a funny feeling if somebody were to just give and give and give and give to you.
Yeah.
Would you not want to give back to them?
Exactly.
It's really funny. Like our neighbor is like, we actually wrote this on our vision for this property and stuff. We wanted to have a really good neighbor, so we got a really good neighbor. And he's helped us out so much with so many different things. He's got us out of major jams and just, it's been wonderful. Yeah. And he's given so much that I feel like there's a void and I'm like, I need to give back to him.
Right.
And so when you think, especially like in a business sense, is like, you need to always give first before you can expect to receive. Yes. Absolutely. It's always you have to give value before you can receive it. Yeah. And that's the way that I look at like money is it's just an exchange of value. So it's like we give all these people value, they give us value back, and and that's just basically that's just how it works.
And I like I always say, I wasn't a life coach once I started getting clients. I started getting clients once I went to life coach. Right? This is the thing. You step into your role and you give. So don't be afraid to give away your shit for free. Don't be afraid that other people have said it and so you shouldn't say it. Right? There's a million recipes out there for vegan sushi bowls. But people go to your channel specifically for that because you offer it your way. You say it your way. Right? There's 100 million self-love channels out there. People come to mind because I say it this way, and that resonates with people. And so be committed to giving something, and don't be afraid to give it away for free. Because, like Derek said, they give everything away for free. People will still buy your ebook. Like this is, they could technically probably find all that stuff for free, but they want to give you. They want to pay you. Like this is like same for me, right? Like I put all my videos out on YouTube for free. I don't even advertise that I coach, and I always have a full coaching roster, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's that thing. It's like, I'm not looking for how I'm going to build my business or how I'm going to. It's like, what do I have to give? What do I have to give, and how can I provide it? Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Like now that we have so many books and stuff out, like we have spent a lot of time like working on them, and we'll still make more in the future. But now it's just more just like putting stuff out there.
Yes.
Like, you know, it's not like she stops making recipe videos or, you know, videos. Yeah. It's like she's always constantly putting it out there. It's just a constant thing, right? And it feels good, and people enjoy it, and it's a good win for everybody. So
exactly. It's literally a win for everybody, and that is true abundance mindset. True abundance mindset says, I'm good. I'm going to focus on what I'm here to give, because I don't need to worry about how I'm going to get what I need, because I know that I'm going to get what I need, right? Mm-hmm. And when you shift from that, when you shift from how can the universe serve me to what do I have to offer, like literally, it's magic what happens. It's literally magical. The shift that takes place in your life and in your being and in your freedom and how you feel. Like, people always think it's going to be so scary to put stuff out for free. And it's like, no, it feels awesome. And it just keeps feeling awesome. So have a vision. Don't limit yourself to knowing how you're going to get there. Understand, everyone who's listening, there's a huge amount of things in between where you are and where you're going. You don't know what those things are. You're not going to know what those things are. You just take the next step. Third thing, when you start to feel those shitty thoughts after you've done your visualization, understand that's what your consciousness is showing you need to work through. Those are the things that need to shift so that you can get to the new frequency. Don't give up when you have shitty thoughts. You're like, oh, good, right? There's a limiting belief that I maybe didn't even realize that I had. Thank you for revealing yourself, right? And when it feels so contrastingly different from how good it felt to be in your positive visualization, again, be like, yes, okay, so this positive visualization is actually more true because it feels better. I maybe don't have the physical evidence of it yet, but that again is because my reality is a reflection of what I believe, not of the truth, right? How I feel is a reflection of the truth. So you focus on all the things that feel so good. You love the bits of yourself that don't feel good, all that limiting stuff. Don't be a troll. Let yourself be inspired by everyone else, right? Yeah. Really, let yourself be inspired, because being a troll is not ruining anyone else's life but yours. Bottom line, you are the only person you are ruining by being a troll. Anyone can say shit about Derek's, what's it called? The quad. And it's not gonna make your quad go away. Derek is still gonna
be there.
And it's still gonna be awesome. You're not going to have a quad. That's all that it is. That's all that's going to happen.
The thing that annoys me the most about trolls specifically, and they criticize me for being thin-skinned, but the place that I come from is, I'm like, why would you sit and waste your time to write this comment?
Exactly.
I'm like, there are so many more amazing things that you could be doing with your time. Like, why would you waste your time for me to read? And then to probably consequently delete and ban you because I don't want to read that shit anymore. Yeah. Like, why would you waste your time to do that?
It's really
that's like my question. That's my question to them. That's why I get annoyed, because I'm like, you're wasting your time. Like, go do something. Right. Don't waste your time on my channel. Like, writing negative comments, right?
Yes. So. Hold yourself to a higher standard. You are a higher caliber human being than that. That is the truth. The fact that you're writing a comment like that simply means you have negative beliefs about yourself. That's all it is. And so what we're saying here is, if you feel like trolling someone, you are a high caliber human being. You are a high caliber human being. There's absolutely no reason why you need to feel how you feel about yourself. That he has something that you don't have and that you can't have it. That's not true. Notice how you feel when you write a shitty comment. It doesn't make you feel good. It doesn't make you feel expanded. It doesn't make you feel capable. So it's out of alignment with the truth of who you are. And then
it does. I'm gonna. It does feel good for like the first.
Oh, it can feel good for a second. Yes.
For like a bit, and then afterwards you regret it and be like, that was stupid.
Well, again, it's like eating 10 cupcakes feels good for about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But then
this McDonald's is so good. And then
exactly. Oh. But like the kind of like getting yourself to a place where you really enjoy your bowl of mango, that's worth it. Where it feels good the whole way through, right? I understand that sometimes we don't really understand what self-sabotaging behavior is, because self-sabotaging behavior in the beginning does feel good. For a moment it feels good, but I'm saying if there's negative backlash, which there is when you make a trolly comment, it limits you. It's, again, reinforcing in your mind that you can't have what you want. So overall, it's not serving you. It's not making Derek's life any worse. It's making your life worse. So don't do it. Hold yourself to a higher standard. Notice that you want to do it and say, okay, well, where's my limiting belief? That's what we should do. And then let go of believing you know the journey, because you don't. And then let yourself take it. Take the steps. Let it all fall apart. Don't assume it's wrong. Everything that comes on your path from the second you start having that vision is exactly what's supposed to come. Right? You may not have known that you needed to go to Portland, but you had to go. Right?
Exactly.
You go.
Sure.
Do the thing. Yeah. I think that's it.
I feel like we could talk for another couple hours, but just keep ranting and like, I
know, because this is such an exciting thing, and we get passionate about it because we know it's possible for everybody. And I think that's really probably when you have thin skin about a troll, really what you're picking up on is just like, ugh, why do you believe this about yourself? Like, why are you bothering to hold yourself
Why
back?
are you wasting your time? Yeah.
Why are you wasting your time? We see you as much higher than you see yourself, essentially. When you're trolling, we get our feelings hurt because we're like, guys, you are worth so much more than this. You are a much higher caliber human being than this. And we know that. And it hurts us to see you not believe that about yourself. So stop it.
Just stop. Stop. Focus on what you want. Take action towards it and immerse yourself.
Exactly. And let yourself...
Three-step process.
Exactly.
Or something like that,
and let yourself take the journey however the journey looks. Don't assume it's wrong. Assume everything is right. Make your mantra, how is this blessing me? How is this helping me? How is this showing me something I didn't already know? If that is your mindset, you'll have whatever you want. Really. Right? If you're assuming everything is wrong, you are in resistance, you can't learn. Right? If you assume learning adding is wrong because you want to be learning multiplication, you'll never actually learn multiplication because you don't understand that you got to learn adding first. But if you won't let yourself learn adding, right, because you think it's wrong, you won't ever get to where you want to go. So everything that's showing up in your reality is supposed to be there. Own it. Learn from it. And then you can go on to the next step. You never get to the next step if you're resisting what you're seeing here now. Right? Bottom line, if you had been like, I don't want to be an electrician, I'm not taking that job, you never would have been here now.
No.
Right?
The electricity wouldn't be, these lights probably wouldn't be working in here.
Exactly.
But
you have lights.
They would have. I would have had to figure out how to do it, but it would have just been something
so much harder. Exactly. And I think that's the other thing. Be a lifelong learner. Don't assume you already know. You don't know. If you already knew, you'd have what you want. If you don't already have the life that you want, there are things you don't know. So get excited about learning them, right?
Exactly. For sure.
And stop assuming you already know, because if you already knew, you'd have it. That's how you know you don't know. Everyone thinks like, I watch people do this all the time. It's like people who don't know how to do a handstand, like kicking up, like starting from standing and like going down and like doing this. And I'm like, okay, if you actually watch someone who knows how to do a handstand, no one does it like that. Everyone starts from a controlled position with their hands on the floor and they raise their legs gently. But everyone's like, I don't know how to do a handstand, but I assume I do. It's like, no, you don't. If you knew how to do it, you'd already have it. So take a step back and say, what don't I know? What don't I know? What do I need to learn? There's something in between me and having what I want. Otherwise, I'd already have it. So be humble. Yeah? Okay.
Absolutely.
I think that's enough. I think that's a very overwhelming video. So yeah, thank you so much for doing this with me. That was so awesome. Your energy is awesome and your story was awesome. And I think it just really amplified all of this. So again, find him, Life Inside a Box. I'll put his channel links down below. I'll put his website down below. You and Hannah are doing awesome work. I love you guys. Marcus is obsessed with your videos. So
Nice.
he's like a little bit fanboying over you. So that's really cute. And
that's cute.
Yeah, I know. He's pretty cute. And yeah, I'm sure we'll talk again. But yeah.
Absolutely,
Thank
Ellie,
you.
for sure.
All right. Talk to you later, everybody.
Peace.
Peace.